Hey guys, the Apple Xbox here, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to put together a version 2 gearbox. Alright, so the first thing you most definitely want to start with is actually on the outside. It's this selector plate. It actually just slides in. It's kind of hard to take out, so I don't want to take it out, but yeah, it just slides in there in these little guides. And yeah, next what you're gonna want to put in is your cutoff lever. I'll zoom in there for you. Right there. That's your cutoff lever. Okay? So after you put in your cutoff lever and screw it in with that screw, you're gonna want to put in this tiny, you can't see it, but it's a tiny little spring. Alright, next step is your electrical trigger module. And so first thing you do is you slip it in, and then you screw it down right here. And then you run the wires down here. Next you put in the anti-stop latch. And what this does is when you're unsafe, it'll stop your trigger from moving. So once you have those pieces in, which are very, very simple, that's why I'm not showing you how to do it, you're all set for the very basics. Okay, so the main point of this whole video is really to show you these two products together. It's a Modify Taurus gearbox shell, 7mm, and then these Modify gears module set. So what you want to do now is put these in. On here, if you can see this blue thing here, that is a delayer chip, which just is going to slow down my hop up just enough to let all those rounds load up in to the barrel. If I didn't have that, I would have a lot of misfeeds. So sometimes when you're putting in gears, you have to fill around with that little anti-reversal, or not anti-reversal latch, but that lever down there to make sure it's out of the way of the gears. So once you have this gear set in, test to make sure it's not hitting anything around it, and it's moving. Alright, so once you have that in and you've checked to make sure everything works, next thing you want to put in is your anti-reversal latch. Now this one comes with has a small flathead screw. You probably can't see that right on the top, but it allows me to use a flathead screwdriver and actually twist the latch. But I'm not going to do that because most don't have it. So all you have to do is stick it in, this anti-reversal latch, twist it a bit with your fingers, pull it back with your other hand, and just set the gears in like that. Now your gears can only go one way, and you hear the clicking. Try to go the other way, that anti-reversal latch locks it. Okay. Next thing you're going to want to put in is your trigger. Trigger is spring-loaded. It fits in perfectly to this little hole right there. So sometimes the spring falls out, but just put it back in its designated spot on the trigger. Put the spring section in, slip one hole in, and get it set up so that this moves when you pull the trigger. And that just works. It's connected up in there. And when these two connect, it's actually where your electrical circuit is created, and the electricity is sent down to these wires, which is connected to the motor. Okay, so now you have your motor, or not your motor, now you have your electrical setup done. And now, time for your anti-reversal latch and and your piston and piston head. Now I have two air nozzles here, and one is aluminum and one is plastic. They both have O-rings in them, and they're both reasonably strong, but for some reason this CNC aluminum one won't work, and that's because it's too long. They are similar lengths, but this is built and has a different shape, so I'm going to use this plastic one. So first thing you gotta do is actually take your cylinder and mate it with your cylinder head, and then just take your air nozzle and just put it right on there. As you can see inside of my cylinder. Next, you take your piston with attached piston head. See, there's just a screw down there that feeds all the way through to the head. And this is a polycarb piston with all the teeth, and then our plastic except the last one, which is a metal to protect when it releases the piston. So after you have those 4 pieces or 5 pieces together like that, you want to take your tappet plate and mate it with the air nozzle in there. Just like that. So now when your tappet plate moves, it moves the air nozzle as well. So you want to set that down. One good tip is to move these gears so that this big, I believe it's the spur gear, is over here, out of the way of the piston and everything, and then your delayer or tappet plate knob is also out of the way. Because once the tappet plate is spring loaded, which we're going to do in a second, it can bend without the other side being stabilized. So what you're going to do now is maybe take some very small needle nose pliers, slip one side of your tappet plate spring in, and drag it up onto this post. So now it's spring loaded. And also make sure that it's sitting correctly on your gear here, underneath the bearing, or the bushing rather. And make sure the gears are set properly. Sometimes you just have to re-spin it again to get everything lined up. Pull the piston out. Oh, the trigger just popped out. But okay. set this trigger back. This will happen sometimes. So just get the spring in there. Remember how we did it? You just feed the back tail of this actual spring in, and then just line it up with the hole and put it in. Okay. After we got that set in, I'm going to just move these teeth out of the way again. Make sure our springs are set, and put in the piston head. Okay, so push that all the way in. Well, it's going to be forced in a second, but just for that. Alright, the last pieces. You have a spring guide. Mine is a ball bearing to relieve tension when this is turning. You can't really see that. And then this is an M150, I believe it's a 110, M110 spring. So you want to push all the way in, feed your, can't see this that well, but feed your the spring guide in there. Grab a screwdriver, right now this is what I'm using, and push it in. Alright, now that you have it in, you can just hold it like that, and it should make sure everything's in its correct place. Okay, now you're holding it there. Now you can take your other side of your gearbox and stick one finger through. See this finger right here? Went through the hole and now is pressing down the spring again. That makes it a lot easier to line up the spring and keep it so your gearbox doesn't fly apart. Now you just gotta line everything up using whatever tools you prefer. You can let go once everything's in control, but and there you go.